I am in my car right now. I just pulled up to the dentist's office. I've got a few minutes before my appointment where I get to find out if I can eat burgers or if I have to eat soup tonight after a procedure. It's a quick follow-up. But I wanted to take this time to tell you a little bit about my 30-year journey to getting a degree and how I finally shifted it to go from feeling like a total failure and feeling like I'd never ever get a degree to actually getting two in a pretty short amount of time. Everything really changed when I learned about competency-based education. And until a year ago, maybe even less, I had never even heard of competency-based education. I had no idea what was available. So I want to share this information because I think if you're considering school, you're thinking it's going to take me years, 30 years. Just know there are options. So this video is going to walk you through a little bit of my story and then how you can use competency-based education in your own life. Okay, now I actually do have to get to the dentist, so I'm going to finish this video when I'm back in my car. Hopefully I'll have good news. We'll find out. Okay, so good news. I was cleared to eat burgers. So yay, good day for me. So let me finish telling you about my path to college, or my path through college, if you may. I have always sort of been the type of person to hack school to find a faster way to get through. And so I actually left high school before my senior year. And I graduated high school after my first year of college through an early admission program. And I had been going. I was always the kind of person who took on way too much, and I continued that into college. And so I did 2 years at a brick and mortar university. I went to University of Miami. I was in film school there, film and criminology, and I loved the program, but I realized the school wasn't teaching me the skills that I would need in the workplace. So I left school after the first 2 years. I did a little time at the local community college to get extra credits because, again, overachiever. But I didn't finish at the time. It wasn't the right time for me to finish. And I think at the time that was the right decision. I went right into the workforce. I got a job fairly quickly, and that propelled my career for the next 15 years at least. But brick and mortar didn't work out for me. Now, over the next few years, the next 10, 15 or so years, I kept trying to go back to school. At the time, the online programs that were available were a lot like correspondence courses. And so I did a program at Indiana University, which was very much, you would submit assignments via email. You still had textbooks. You still had sort of learning at your pace, but it was a very, they had translated the classroom experience to online, to a correspondence school format. So I did a little bit of that. I did some classes here and there, local extension programs, things like that, but I just couldn't finish. I kept starting and stopping, and it just wasn't working out. So then the sort of third phase of my failure, it's a terrible way of putting it, but the third phase was that I went to law school. Now in California, there are programs that you can get into even if you don't have a bachelor's degree, and I had enough credits that I could get into the program. And it was a part-time program, so it was sort of at your own pace. Each year you would take 4 classes, so you would have a whole year to do the program, and then at the end you would submit midterms, and then you would submit a final, and you'd be graded on the midterms and the final. You had some other assignments as well. And it was a 4-year program. I made it through 3 years. But they were 3 of the hardest years of my life. There was a lot going on in my personal life, some issues with our house, work stuff. There was a lot going on, but school itself, it just was not the format for me. You had to complete a certain number of of hours of classroom time, and it wasn't synchronous. Well, it was synchronous. You could join live classes, but you could also watch the recordings. So I mostly watched recordings. I didn't develop a lot of relationships with my professors. They were frankly very standoffish. And my biggest criticism of the program is that there was no way to get feedback on anything. You weren't allowed to get feedback on your exams. They weren't allowed to discuss them with you. And you couldn't see examples of what good work looked like. And it made it so hard. The program itself, I've mentioned this in another video, it doesn't have a lot of students who actually complete it. I don't know the actual numbers, but based on the published numbers of class enrollment, I'm guessing 20 people a year graduate from this school. So I hit a point in my third year where things were not working, and I went into my final exams for that year and I looked at the first question and I knew I couldn't do it. I knew that I was done. I could not do this anymore. And I submitted my exams blank and I walked away from law school, and it was a good decision. I would have been miserable continuing it, and I'm not sure the legal profession is right for me. But it left me feeling like I would never get a degree, like I was a failure as a student and I couldn't hack it, even though I had done everything I could to succeed in that program, including hiring tutors, taking all the extracurricular, the extra support classes that they offered, everything. I felt like, everyone else can get a degree, but I never will. And so that's sort of where I left it for a long time. My car is getting really hot because I have the AC off, so I'm going to go get myself a milkshake, cool down the car, and then I'll pick this up in just a second. I'll see you in a sec. Got my shake and found a quieter place to record, hopefully. I'm not really sure. It's kind of noisy today. Anyways, so I finished law school and I was feeling just like the worst student ever. I had developed this major test anxiety. In fact, put in the comments, let me know, would you rather take tests or write papers to finish your degree? Because there are programs that do both, that do both, but there are programs that specialize in one or the other, and that was what finally shifted it for me. So less than a year ago, I was surfing on YouTube and I found some videos talking about competency-based education programs. These are programs where you're not sitting in class all day, you're not doing things in a synchronous manner where you have to be online at a certain point. You're not keeping pace with a whole cohort of students. You're working at your own speed and at your own pace. And I loved this idea because you are being tested. You are, whether it's tests or writing papers, you are being asked to prove that you've mastered these subjects. You're not proving that you can sit and spend 100 hours learning about the subject. You're proving that you have learned it. And more than that, that you know how to apply these topics to real life. And I was like, this is the future. And I immediately jumped online to see what programs were out there. And I quickly narrowed it down to a couple of the top ones that people online talk about a lot. But there are so many programs out there that I could spend hours talking about all the programs there are out there. So I was looking at WGU and UMPI, UMPI. WGU is primarily based on proctored tests, and UMPI is primarily based on papers. There are no tests. And given my test anxiety, I knew that I needed something to make me feel better about my abilities as a student before I could go into a situation where I'm doing tests over and over and over again. I knew that I needed a different format. And so I chose UMPI. I know other people who chose WGU, and it was perfect for them. It really boils down to what kind of a student you are and what you prefer to do and how you learn and show that learning best. But I went to UMPI and immediately found a group of people who were so supportive. The faculty, the administration, everyone is so supportive. And that support and a structure that finally works, that allowed me to finish my bachelor's degree and then a master's degree in within the year. It was, I mean, it blew my mind. It turned me into an evangelist for this form of education because I thought I would never get a degree. I thought I was a terrible student. I thought, I thought I could do law school, but then clearly I couldn't. So who am I to even finish a degree? And I did it. And so if you're considering this, I want you to experience what I did, whether you go to either of those schools or any others. I want you to know it is possible. It is possible to find a program that works for you. It is possible to find a program that's quick, that does not take, you're not going to have to put your whole life on hold for 3 or 4 years like my law school experience. You can do these programs and have a degree in what will feel like no time. It's a lot of hard work, but it will fly by. So the main point of this video is to tell you that these options exist. But I also want you to know that it can be scary. Clearly, I went through a period of thinking I couldn't do it. But through that process, I learned strategies and techniques, and I found the tools to help me do it in a systematized way. I had workflows for writing papers, and I found little ways of getting faster at things. I'm not saying put it all into an AI and have it spit out a paper. I was doing the work. I was applying these things to my own real-world experiences and actually learned a whole lot. But there are ways to make it faster and easier, and you can build in structure so that you don't feel like you are just flailing out there alone with no feedback, no support, none of that. I want to be that support for you. And through this channel, I want to provide you with some of these tips and tools and techniques. So please let me know what your challenges are, and I will help address them. And in the comments, like I said earlier, let me know, are you a test person or a papers person? Because that will help me figure out what types of videos people might find interesting and helpful. Also, if you're trying to make the decision whether you should go back to school and how to know whether a program is right for you so you don't waste 30 years like I did trying to find the program that will let you succeed, you can go to the link in the description and get my online college blueprint. It walks you through how to narrow down the questions that really matter when you're trying to pick a school. So you can get that in the description, and I will put a video up here that YouTube thinks you might enjoy next. Otherwise, I'll see you in the next video.